For those who disbelieve in their Lord is the torment of hell, and it is an evil place of return. When they are thrown therein, they will hear its roaring, boiling, and raging, and it will tear them to pieces.
When people are thrown into hell, they hear its ever-boiling, heart-rending roar. Hell is always boiling. It does not stop boiling, even for a moment. Hell has been boiling since the day it was created and will boil throughout its internal life. Mujahid said the word wa hiya tafur in the verse means like the boiling of a cauldron with them. That is, the boiling of hell is like a boiling cauldron. The sun is a glowing orb of boiling gases. During visual observations of the sun, it is easily seen that the surface of the sun is not homogeneous in terms of brightness. This is because the surface of the sun, the photosphere, is boiling. The thickness of the boiling photosphere is 200 to 300 kilometers, and its temperature is 6,000 Kelvin. Below the photosphere is the convective field layer, which is generally about 100,000 kilometers thick, and the temperature of its plasma reaches about 2 million degrees Celsius. As a result of the uplift and downlift of individual masses of matter in the convective field, namely convection elements, the displacement of matter is inevitable. As it passes into the lower layers of the photosphere and loses rays, a sharp drop in temperature occurs as it approaches the boundary of the photosphere, the visible surface of the sun, from the convective field. This results in the boiling and mixing of substances in the photosphere, similar to the boiling of a liquid heated from below. In other words, just as liquid boils in a container heated from below, the surface of the sun boils from below, that is, by being heated from the convection field. This boiling is present at every point on the sun's surface and never stops, not even for a moment. In the 7th verse of Surah Al-Mulk, it is mentioned that hell is constantly boiling, and it is like the boiling of liquid in a cauldron. The surface of the sun is also constantly boiling, and this is similar to the boiling of liquid in a cauldron heated from below. This similarity suggests that hell is a sun. Mujahid said about the word wa hiya tafur in this verse, it boils with them, the people thrown there, like the boiling of liquid in a boiling cauldron. In other words, along with the boiling and mingling materials of hell, people also boil together on the boiling surface of hell. It is stated in the 14th verse of Surah Al-Layl,
فَأَنْزَعْتُكُمْ دَارًا تَلَدًا.
Taladha in this verse includes various meanings, just like the verse itself does. In Tahwim ul-Quran, the verse is explained as follows.
So I have warned you of a fire whose flames will increasingly rise.
Ali Bulach, Gültekin Onan, and others have explained the verse as follows.
So I have warned you of a fire whose flames will rage.
A hell that swells and boils. What are these swells? The surface of the sun is literally boiling. Hot material rising from the sun's convection zone cools down when it reaches the sun's surface and sinks back down after giving off the sun's light. The material rising to the surface from convection forms bubbles on the surface of the sun. Each bubble is roughly the size of Texas. These bubbles then spread over the surface, cool down, and sink within 5 minutes. The extremely violent bubbles that are going on at millions of different points all over the surface of the sun are the bubbles of a boiling and bubbling inferno. There are those who explain the 14th of Surah El-Layl as follows. Jalal Yildirim.
I have warned you of a fire that rages and rises in waves.
Yasar Nuri Öztürk.
I warned you of a blazing fire.
El-Malala Hamdi Yazur translated the verse as,
I have warned you of a fire that bubbles up.
A bubbling hell. When hell is boiling, the substances it boils are foaming. Regarding the verse,
When they are tossed into it, they will hear its roaring as it boils over.
Mujahid said, their situation there is like that of small grains in boiling water. Sufyan Sa'ri said about this verse, their situation is like that of small particles in boiling water. Hanad B. Asari reported in Kitab-uz-Zuhd, on the authority of Ubaid b. Umayr, that the Prophet said, among the people of hell, the one whose torment is the lightest has a pair of shoes of fire on his feet. His brain boils from its heat like a cauldron boiling itself. His ears and teeth are like fire, and his lips are like pieces of fire. His internal organs come out of his feet and become like tiny particles boiling in a lot of water. That person is always wailing. In other words, hell boils the people who will be thrown into it like the boiling of liquid in a cauldron heated from below. The state of the people who will be thrown into such a boiling hell is like the state of small grains of water in a cauldron when it boils and the water foams. Hell, which boils them to such a state, makes the matter in it boil in such a way that people who will be thrown there will boil in the same way. In other words, when hell boils, particles are formed there like the particles of bubbling water. People will also foam there like these particles and take the place of the particles. So, people boil on the surface of hell along with the particles. In the 14th verse of Surah El-Layl, we read about hell bubbling and foaming. In the 7th verse of Surah El-Mulk, we are informed about the formation of particles similar to the small foam particles of the bubbling water. Foaming is the formation of particles. Does this bubbling in hell exist in the sun? Visual observations of the solar photosphere reveal an elegant structure resembling dense clouds or grains of rice. It is as if the photosphere is a myriad of small bright grains against a dark background. The bright rounded derivatives of the photosphere are called grains, while the entire structure is called granulation. The grains, which reach an average size of 1,000 kilometers, are separated from each other by thin, dark intervals. The distance between each grain is 300 to 600 kilometers. Granulation occurs as a result of the movement of gases in the convection zone below the photosphere. In the granules, matter rises and descends in the periphery. This rise is due to the fountain coming from the convection zone, which strikes the center of the granule and raises it. The fountain of molten gas, rising from the convection zone at 500 meters per second, hits the center of the granule and raises it until it reaches its peak. Then it flows away, gradually cools and darkens, and goes back down into the depths. This is why the edges of the granule are darker than its center. The speed of ascent and descent of matter in granules is 1 to 2 kilometers per second. Each particle exists for an average of 5 to 10 minutes, after which it disintegrates and is replaced by other particles. Particles on the surface of the boiling sun resemble the foam rising in boiling water. When hell boils, with the boiling of Wahiya Tafur, that is, like the boiling of water in a pot heated from below, it forms granules like the small particles of boiling and bubbling water. When the surface of the sun boils in a manner similar to the boiling of liquid in a cauldron heated from below, the granules that form on its surface resemble the tiny particles of bubbling water, and these particles exist in every part of it. The fact that these two places, hell and the sun, boil in the same way indicates that hell is a sun.